I don't mind those boxes. Those are from Amazon.
Like Bill Gates and them, and by you wearing that, seriously, think about it. You're breathing out your toxic air.
Yes. All right. So. Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm real chill today, okay? It's about to be 11 o'clock at night. I got my little ginger and lemon tea. I have my humidifier going, humidifier diffuser, that thing with eucalyptus and grapefruit, lavender. If it doesn't smell like an old folks home, I don't want it, okay? Got my lo-fi music playing. You know, I'm just trying to be chill. You know why? Because we're just gonna have a talk today. We're just gonna come here with me and talk. Don't mind those boxes. We were in quarantine, so I was doing a little bit of shopping on Amazon. It's okay. It's under control. It's all right. But yeah, I'm in my hoodie. You know, I just said we're just gonna record a YouTube video because I just want to talk to the people about things that are on my heart. Get your teacup. This teacup is actually an inside joke between me and my friends regarding every time I take a sip, it's because I feel the tears coming on. Because I'm just an emotional wreck. But it's okay, you know? Tears make you strong. They don't make you weak. It's all right. Praise be to God. Before we get started, please do not forget to like, comment, subscribe to my channel. Man, a side note, I really like doing this, guys. I really like this, talking to you guys through the camera. Just feedback and stuff that I get just really makes my heart happy, and I just be sitting here as if I'm being interrogated by the authorities when I sit here and talk to the camera to myself, because, you know, obviously no one's in here with me, but I just always feel the love and the support after the fact. So I just really want to say thank you before I even get started. It fills my heart to know that any words that I ever have to say about anything are help to people. So thank you. All right, so, you know, something that's been on my heart a lot lately is something that, I say this in every video, something that so many of us struggle with, but really, wow, I've noticed in the last couple of weeks, just because of things that I am going through and also people that are close to me, there is this thing where we as humans feel like we always have to be validated by someone, or maybe a lot of people, in order to feel like someone. And this is something that I can honestly, being completely open and honest about it, have struggled with for a really long time. And it kind of breaks my heart, because it's so sad that so many of us experience this thing where if someone is not validating our worth, whether it's our looks, the things that we've accomplished academically, secularly, in the world, with our jobs, you know, just different things like that, we feel like we're not up to par with such and such or this person. And I'm sick of it. And no, me being sick of it does not mean that starting tomorrow I am never gonna feel like that again, because I guarantee you, especially after this week, it's really going to be an effort for all of us. It's hard work. It is a daily fight to not feel like your worth is based off of what someone else thinks about you, or the ideas that you have in your own mind that you think sometimes you have to be in order to mean something. And honestly, this video was inspired because of a live that one of my best friends honestly did the other day on his Instagram, and he was being so honest and open, and he was talking about how he had gotten to a point in his relationship with God, not too long ago. He's a preacher, he's a singer, and he had gotten to a point where the validation and the accolades and the applause from everyone is what made him feel like he was someone. And that applause or that accolade and that validation from other people got to his head. And he admitted that he got to a point where he felt like he didn't even need to seek God's wisdom, and he didn't even need to seek God in order to validate him. Basically, the applause and everything that he was getting from everyone was filling him. But then he got to a point where he had to sit there with God and be like, well, God, I don't feel your presence anymore. I don't feel your touch. And how could he, when the applause and the validation and the worth that he was receiving was from everyone else? And the funny thing about validation is that it can have two completely polar opposite results when we get it. It can either pump your ego up to a point where you thrive off of it, and it makes you feel like the validation that you receive from everyone else, it was you that did it. You're the one who's accomplishing all these things. You're the one who has gotten you to where you are. That validation can become addictive, and that is the only thing that is sustaining you. Or it can have the complete opposite effect, and where that validation is what makes you think, or it's the only thing that makes you think that you're worth it. And so when that's removed or when it's taken away from you, then you become to self-deprecate, because you don't believe that you're worth anything, or you don't believe that you can accomplish this, or you don't believe anything about yourself if you're not receiving that validation from X, Y, and Z. And so very recently, this has been something that has affected me. And the funny thing is that this was something that I thought I overcame. And the thing about when you think that you've overcome something or healed from something is that you got to be really careful to think that, because there might be something in your life, and it's not something that you need to beat yourself up about. Healing, I've always said, healing is not linear. It's not supposed to look a certain way. It's not supposed to be a set amount of time that you get over things, but you do get stronger. And as you go through the process of life, different situations that you go through make you realize, oh, I wouldn't have reacted this way if this would have happened to me 1, 2, 3 years ago. So you do recognize your growth, but it can be disheartening sometimes when you think that you've gotten over a certain way of thinking, or you think that you've gotten over something, and a situation makes you realize that there are still some things that you have to work on, and that's perfectly okay. We're a work in progress. We're never going to be done fixing this flesh, but I think that it can be sometimes disheartening to realize that there are still parts of you that just need more work. And while that's okay, it still can sometimes be disheartening. And so especially this week, I realized that while I have gone through situations in my life that have made me feel, in different scenarios, it's been relationships, it's been jobs, that have made me feel like I'm not worth this, or why am I not enough for this? Why am I not enough for that? And there have been situations that have taught me it has nothing to do with you. You are a beautiful, educated, smart, you can go down the list of all the things that you hopefully believe about yourself. But there can always be one little thing or one small something that can immediately trigger something in you where you realize that you are not allowing yourself to be all of who you can be, all who you really are to be, because you don't have a certain validation, whether it's because someone's not there to validate that, or because you were overlooked for something and you feel like you can't believe something about yourself if this other person or this other situation doesn't believe it about me. And so I've come to realize, and I know that I'm not the only one, because I've been having conversations with other people close to me about how they miss sometimes someone being there, or they miss someone telling them or reminding them how wonderful they are, or how, you know, you fill in the blank of whatever it is. You all are wise, and I think that we've all been through it to understand what I'm saying. And I've had to tell other people, just like I've had to remind myself, that someone else's validation will never ever be enough if your heart is not convinced of who you are. What I mean by that is there might be something in you that you feel like maybe you can't accomplish, or maybe you can't get as far as you want to because you don't have that thing there reminding you that you can do it, that you're capable, that you have it in you, and all of that. And sometimes we find ourselves in cycles of people or things, and we find ourselves in the same situations with that same issue. And what I heard a pastor say, it was actually couples interviewing couples, and this pastoral couple, basically he said, even if I'm with her and she validates and she feels, you know, this void, or the wife was saying, even if he validates me and he feels this thing or makes me feel this way or that way, if I don't have that void filled in myself, if I don't have that belief in myself, he could fill that void, or he can validate me, and then he could go away, and then the next one, and then the next one. It's going to be a never-ending cycle, because there are certain things that you have to believe about yourself. It doesn't matter how much validation anyone gives you. You will, it doesn't matter who it is, you will never believe it if you don't believe it about yourself. And the funny thing is that in the past, I have struggled a lot with, you know, I'm like I said before, I'm not enough of this, or I need this validation in order to make me feel this way. And I did get to a point, I can pinpoint it in my life so clearly, where I did realize my worth, where I said, okay, because you don't think this, or like, that has nothing to do with me, boo. Okay, I know who I am, and I know what I have, what I'm called for, and who I am. I got to that point. I think because it's something that I struggled so much to get to, because it's something that I struggled such a long time to get to that realization or that conviction of who I am, it's very easy for one little thing to just snap you back into that insecurity. It's real easy. Trust me, it is. Why? Because it happened to me this week. So I know, I know, even though I've learned that about myself, there have been situations where I've been validated in certain areas where I think it was a healthy validation. A certain situation or a person made me feel like, I've said this, it's a joke, but it's true. Like, I've said this before, like, if I have $5 in the bank tomorrow and I wanted to go buy a jet, I could do that, because that's how much that person made me feel like I could just do anything that I put my mind to. And when something like that, you know, is either taken away from you, or you just feel like you don't have it anymore, and I'm speaking for myself and also just other people that I know that have told me have felt like this, you start to feel like I know I can do this, but I don't know, can I really do it? Or I don't have the motivation, or I don't have the whatever it might be, because you don't have that validation. And to me, that's a dark place to be sometimes, where you kind of feel like everything that you maybe thought you knew about yourself, you question it in a second. It's a dark place to be, because if there's something that I've 100% learned, it's that the enemy knows exactly what to use to make you start doubting your identity. The enemy knows the potential that you have. He knows what you have inside of you. He knows. And if he can just use the one thing that he knows will get to you the easiest, that will cause you to lie to yourself, you know, and that's why I've always said that everyone's struggle is different. One thing that could affect you may not affect me. It's because the enemy knows exactly what to use in order to make that potential die. If he can get you to believe that you are not worth something, or you're not as blah 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 as this person, or you're not, immediately he will start to use that, and he will make the fire that's burning in you be put out so quick, because in that case, he doesn't have to do it. You do it to yourself. He doesn't even have to stop you. You're stopping yourself. Because immediately when you believe that lie, he doesn't have to do any more work. You've immediately now believed that you are not capable, you don't have such and such, or you don't have this and this. And so immediately you start to lose that motivation and you start to lose that drive. So he doesn't have to do anything else. You now have free reign to kill your own potential and your own ability to do everything that maybe God has called you to do. And again, I am sick of that. I'm sick of it because it's something that I know that I've struggled with, and I know I'm not the only one who has struggled with this. And something that two of my friends made me realize this week is that, like I said, I think sometimes there is validation that is healthy, but it's the validation that's used to remind you of what's already in you. Two of my friends reminded me this week that sometimes God knows exactly what to use as a vessel to allow what he wants to come out of you to come out of you. You may have been validated in order to push you to do something, but that was already in you. A situation or a person or something could have been used as a vessel to just bring out of you what was already there, but you were gonna do this anyways. They were saying to me, it was already in you to start that podcast. Side note, I have a podcast with my girl Bethia, so if you haven't checked it out yet, do that. Anyways, you were gonna start that podcast anyways. You were gonna start that business anyways. You were gonna do, that was already in you, and maybe God needed to use something or a situation in order to just bring that out of you. But it was already in you. You were going to do it anyways. So my point with this video is to tell you that you have already been validated. You have already gotten the validation that you need by being a son or a daughter of a king. And I know we say that, or at this point that even might sound cliche, but point blank period, that's the truth of what it is. Do not let, I've had to remind myself so much in the past couple weeks, and especially this last week, you've done so much. Sometimes we comparing ourselves to other people and what other people have accomplished or what they've gained or and you forget to put your own life into perspective. You forget to, and sometimes I think it's hard for us, maybe even as Christians, to do that because, we're taught to be humble and we're taught to be, which is good, yes, be humble, but sometimes you got to remember who you are. In the word, I'm not even gonna say what she said. Anyway, sometimes you have to remind yourself who you are, not in a conceited, whatever kind of way, but sometimes you really have to sit there and run down the list of your accomplishments. I've done this, I've done this. Yes, maybe I'm not exactly where I want to be, but as long as I have breath in my body, I'm gonna work towards that. And no one can tell me that this person's accomplishment or this person's this is better than me. We are all in this life doing the same thing together, which is hopefully trying to serve God, survive Corona, and be the best that we can be. And I just really hope that this inspires someone to understand that the addiction of validation is not what's going to make you be everything that you're supposed to be. The validation that God already gave us and everything that he's already put in us is what's going to make us be who we're called to be. Keep spending time with God for him to remind you of who you are, for him to whisper in your ear that you are his child, that you are made beautifully in his image, and that you are beautifully and wonderfully made. And just because I made this video or just because you watched this video doesn't mean that maybe tomorrow or the next week or the next week there's going to be a moment where you fall down that rabbit hole of convincing yourself that if you're not being validated by what you want to be validated with, that you're not enough. Please don't do that to yourself. Don't do it to, it's an insult to God. It's an insult to his sovereignty, because he said who you are. He called you to be exactly who you are. And one thing that I've learned, and I don't say this phrase a lot, but we have to learn to make agreements with what is said about us. Not the negative, but the positive. You can choose to make an agreement or not agree. Yeah, you can say that you believe what someone has said, but you can agree with what someone has said. Someone can call you beautiful, smart, educated, all these things all day, and you can work at believing those things, but until you agree with what they've said and agreed with that statement, then it's going to be very hard for you to believe it. I just ask that you remember that who you are and who God has called you to be is exactly who you are. Just because you think that you haven't reached a certain point doesn't mean that your specific purpose is less than anyone else. You know, you may not be exactly where you want to be, but you are exactly where you're supposed to be. Again, just because sometimes, me specifically, just because I'm kind of tired of carrying this specific cross, because I think that sometimes these different things that we deal with, these are the crosses that we have to carry. These are the thorns in our flesh. But just because this cross might be one that you will continuously have to work to carry, eventually you'll obtain that crown. And in this case, you'll obtain the crown of not having to feel like you need validation from anyone else other than the God who made you. So God bless you. I hope that this, me looking like a bum and out here at 11 o'clock at night in my bad yellow light, doesn't distract you from the message of this video. So God bless you. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one looking better, not drinking my tea, but it's okay. It's all right. It's okay. You're still gonna watch it anyways, right? And you're still gonna like and comment and subscribe, right? Thank you. Okay, good night. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.